First Contact Protocol. The autumn rain drummed steadily against the reinforced windows of the International Space Research Center as Dr. Sarah Chen reviewed the final preparations for their extraterrestrial visitors. The facility, nestled in the Rocky Mountains, had been transformed from a modest research station into humanity's premier xenobiology center in the span of just 6 months. Sarah's hands moved swiftly across the holographic display, checking and rechecking the atmospheric conditions in the specialized containment unit. The Vexeri delegation would arrive within the hour, and everything had to be perfect. As the lead xenobiologist on Earth's first official extraterrestrial research exchange, she carried the weight of humanity's scientific reputation on her shoulders. Dr. Chen, the facility's AI announced, the Vexeri vessel has entered Earth's atmosphere and will dock in approximately 20 minutes. Sarah straightened her lab coat and took a deep breath. The last year had been a whirlwind since the Vexeri made first contact, choosing Earth as their primary research station in this sector of the galaxy. Their interest in human biology, particularly our reproductive processes, had initially raised eyebrows among the scientific community, but their advanced medical knowledge and technology had made the exchange too valuable to dismiss. The containment unit's airlock cycled open, and Sarah stepped inside. The room had been specially designed to accommodate both human and Vexeri physiological needs, with separate atmospheric controls and gravity adjustments. The walls were lined with the most advanced medical equipment Earth could produce, alongside several alien devices that still mystified their best engineers. Through the observation window, Sarah watched as the sleek, silver vessel descended onto the landing pad. Unlike the bulky human spacecraft, the Vexeri ship moved with an almost organic grace, its hull shifting and adjusting to atmospheric conditions in real time. The vessel's surface rippled like liquid metal as it touched down, before settling into a solid form. The ship's entry portal dilated open, revealing the tall, elegant figure of Zix 427, the Vexeri's leading expert in comparative biology. Despite having reviewed countless holographic images, Sarah still found herself taken aback by the alien's appearance. Zix 427 stood nearly 7 feet tall, with a body that seemed to defy conventional physics. Their skin was semi-transparent, revealing a complex network of bioluminescent organs that pulsed with a soft, bluish light. Sarah activated the airlock's decontamination sequence and watched as Zix 427 moved through the sterilization field. The Vexeri's movements were fluid, almost dance-like, their bioluminescent organs creating patterns that Sarah suspected carried meaning beyond mere biological function. "Greetings, Dr. Chen," Zix 427 spoke, their voice resonating through the specialized atmosphere in harmonics that the translation matrix converted to human speech. "Your facility's adaptation to our physiological requirements is impressive, given your technological limitations." Sarah smiled, recognizing the statement as a compliment rather than the condescension it might have seemed. After months of diplomatic preparation, she understood that Vexeri communication relied heavily on direct observations rather than social niceties. "Thank you, researcher Zix 427. We've done our best to create an environment conducive to our joint studies." She gestured toward the main laboratory space. "Would you like to review our preliminary research setup?" The Vexeri scientist moved to the central console, their elongated fingers hovering over the holographic displays. The bioluminescent patterns across their skin shifted to deeper blues and purples, an indication of intense focus, according to their briefing materials. "Your species' approach to biological research is unique," Zix 427 observed, scrolling through the proposed protocols. "You segment life processes into discrete units for study, rather than examining the holistic energy patterns." "Fascinating." Sarah moved to stand beside them, careful to maintain the recommended distance of 2 meters. Different approaches often yield complementary insights. That's one reason we're so excited about this collaboration. Zix 427's head tilted at an angle that would have been impossible for human vertebrae. Indeed, your reproductive processes, in particular, represent an evolutionary path that challenges our understanding of biological efficiency. The amount of energy your species invests in pair bonding, gestation, and offspring rearing is extraordinary. We've reviewed your preliminary data on vexillary reproduction, Sarah replied, pulling up a comparative analysis on a secondary display. The concept of energy-based genetic transfer is equally fascinating to us. The implications for genetic diversity and adaptation are enormous. The vexillary scientist's skin rippled with rapid pulses of light. This is why we chose Earth for our primary research station, Dr. Chen. Your species' persistent exploration of inefficient biological processes has produced unexpected advantages. We believe studying human reproduction may help us understand why our own population growth has stagnated. Sarah's heart rate increased slightly at this revelation. The vexillary had been characteristically vague about their reasons for focusing on human biology. This was the first concrete explanation they'd offered. Population stagnation, she asked carefully, knowing she was treading into potentially sensitive territory. Our preliminary scans showed healthy vexillary biological functions. Healthy, yes, but unchanging. ZX427's outer membrane shifted, revealing deeper layers of pulsing organs. We have achieved near-perfect energy transfer in reproduction, but our genetic diversity has decreased with each generation. Your species' messy biological processes somehow maintain both stability and variation. This paradox requires investigation. Sarah nodded, her mind racing with the implications. Then we should begin with a detailed comparison of our reproductive cellular structures. Our electron microscopes have been calibrated to. A sudden alarm cut through the air, causing Sarah to jump. The facility's AI voice echoed through the chamber. Atmospheric anomaly detected in Section C. Adjusting composition. 6427's skin flashed with bands of bright yellow. A warning sign. The atmospheric balance is crucial to our biological functions, Dr. Chen. Perhaps we should continue this discussion once your systems have stabilized. Of course, Sarah agreed, already moving to the environmental controls. We can use this opportunity to test our emergency protocols and make any necessary adjustments. Safety has to come first. As she worked to stabilize the atmosphere, Sarah couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. The vexillari's revelation about their true research interests suggested this exchange would be far more significant than anyone had anticipated. The prospect of helping an advanced species solve their biological challenges while simultaneously advancing human knowledge was exactly the kind of opportunity she had dreamed of throughout her career. But as she glanced at ZX427's shifting form, she wondered what other surprises awaited them in this unprecedented collaboration. The difference between their species went far beyond the physical. They were dealing with fundamentally different approaches to life itself. The proposal. 3 weeks into the exchange program, Sarah found herself spending more time in the laboratory than her own apartment. The initial atmospheric instability had been resolved, but it had revealed other complexities in maintaining a suitable environment for both species to work together. Each challenge they overcame taught them something new about their biological differences and, surprisingly, their similarities. ZX427 stood before the quantum microscope, their translucent form reflecting the blue light of the display. On the screen, a human embryonic cell underwent mitosis, its chromosomes dancing in their ancient pattern. Remarkable inefficiency, the vexillary scientist commented, their skin pulsing with patterns that Sarah had learned to recognize as intense interest. Your genetic material requires such elaborate protection and precise division. Yet this very complexity appears to generate your species' adaptability. Sarah adjusted the magnification, revealing the intricate mechanisms of cellular division. We've mapped the process, but there's still so much we don't understand about why it works this way. Your energy-based reproduction seems far more elegant. Elegant, yes, but potentially fatal to our species' future. ZX427's outer membrane rippled with concern. Our latest population projections suggest that without intervention, the Vexari will begin an irreversible decline within 3 generations. Sarah's hands paused over the controls. This was the most direct statement about their situation that any Vexari had made. Because of the lack of genetic diversity. Partially. ZX427 moved closer to the display, their elongated fingers tracing the path of the dividing chromosomes. Our reproductive process has become too perfect, too efficient. We have eliminated random mutation, error, and variation. In doing so, we may have eliminated our ability to evolve. The implications hit Sarah like a physical force. You're not just here to study our reproduction. You're looking for a way to reintroduce variation into your own species. Yes, the Vexari turned to face her, their internal organs pulsing with intense blues and purples. Dr. Chen, I would like to propose an expansion of our research parameters. We need to do more than observe. We need to understand if it's possible to incorporate elements of human reproductive processes into our own. Sarah felt her breath catch. You're talking about attempting to merge our reproductive mechanisms. That would be unprecedented. As is the current crisis facing my species. ZX427's skin rippled with urgent patterns. Our preliminary analysis suggests that human DNA repair mechanisms and chromosomal recombination could potentially be adapted to our energy-based transfer process, but such research would require intimate knowledge of both systems. The implications hung in the air between them. This wasn't just about academic study anymore. They were talking about potentially reshaping the future of an entire species. The ethical committees would need to be convinced, Sarah said slowly, her mind already racing through the possibilities. We'd need unprecedented security protocols, new containment facilities. I understand the magnitude of what I'm proposing, ZX427 responded, their bioluminescence pulsing in what Sarah recognized as their species' equivalent of earnest sincerity. But consider the scientific advancement for both our species. If we could understand how to combine the stability of our energy-based reproduction with the adaptive potential of your genetic system. Sarah turned back to the quantum microscope, watching as the human cell completed its division. Each daughter cell contained the full complexity of human genetic information, along with the tiny variations that made evolution possible. Could that really be merged with the Vexari's energy-based system? We'd need to start with basic cellular compatibility tests, she said finally. And we'd need full transparency with both our governments about the potential implications. Agreed. ZX427's skin flickered with patterns of relief and excitement. I have already prepared a preliminary research protocol based on our observations these past weeks. As they began to review the proposed experiments, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the brink of something monumental. This wasn't just about saving the Vexari species, it was about understanding the very foundations of life itself. What they were proposing would challenge every assumption about biology, evolution, and the nature of reproduction. It would also raise profound questions about the ethics of interfering with such fundamental processes. But as she watched ZX427's eager manipulation of the research data, Sarah knew they had to try. The potential benefits for both species were too great to ignore. Breaking barriers. The research facility's containment lab hummed with energy as Sarah and ZX427 prepared for their first major experiment. After 2 months of preliminary tests and endless rounds of approval from both human and Vexari authorities, they were finally ready to attempt something unprecedented. The controlled interaction of human genetic material with Vexari energy patterns. Quantum containment field at full strength, Sarah announced, checking the readings on her holographic display. Temperature and atmospheric conditions are stable. She glanced at the sealed chamber where a carefully prepared sample of human stem cells floated in a specialized nutrient solution. ZX427's body pulsed with concentrated bands of deep purple light as they manipulated the controls of their own equipment, a device that looked more like a living crystal than a scientific instrument. Energy matrix prepared. beginning calibration for first transfer attempt. The stakes couldn't have been higher. After weeks of theoretical modeling, they had identified a potential method for introducing controlled variation into the Vexeri reproductive process. The theory was elegant. Use human cellular repair mechanisms as a template for introducing beneficial mutations into the Vexeri energy-based genetic transfer. Recording systems active, Sarah confirmed, trying to keep her voice steady despite her racing heart. Beginning sequence in 3, 2, 1. A beam of iridescent energy emerged from the Vexeri device, enveloping the human cell sample. The quantum microscope's display showed the cellular response in real time, and it was unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. The human DNA began to resonate with the Vexeri energy patterns, creating interference patterns that shouldn't have been possible according to either species' understanding of biology. Extraordinary, Zix-427 whispered, their skin flickering with rapid pulses of excitement. The cellular membrane is maintaining integrity while allowing energy transfer. Look at the chromosomal response. Sarah leaned closer to the display, amazed by what she was seeing. The human cells weren't just surviving the energy transfer, they were adapting to it, their repair mechanisms responding to the alien influence in ways that suggested an underlying compatibility no one had predicted. The genetic stability is holding, she reported, scanning through the incoming data. But there's something else. The mitochondrial activity is increasing exponentially. Suddenly, alarms blared through the lab. The human cells were beginning to divide at an accelerated rate, but something was different about the daughter cells. They exhibited characteristics of both species, the structured genetic material of human cells combined with the energy-conducting properties of Vexeri biology. Containment field holding steady, Sarah called out, her fingers flying over the controls. But we need to decide quickly, continue or terminate. Zix-427's skin rippled with complex patterns of blue and gold, their species' expression of intense calculation. The cellular changes are following a pattern we didn't predict, but they're stable. I recommend we continue observation. Sarah took a deep breath, checking all safety parameters before nodding. Agreed. But we maintain full containment protocols. For the next 3 hours, they watched in fascination as the hybrid cells continued to develop. Each generation showed subtle variations, exactly the kind of controlled mutation the Vexeri were seeking. But it was the unexpected synergies between the two species' biological systems that captured their attention. Our energy transfer process appears to be enhanced by interaction with human genetic repair mechanisms, Zix-427 observed, their skin pulsing with patterns Sarah had never seen before. The implications are significant. More than significant, Sarah replied, reviewing the preliminary analysis. These hybrid cells are showing capabilities neither species possesses individually. The potential medical applications alone. She trailed off as a new alert appeared on her screen. The hybrid cells had begun producing complex protein structures that matched neither human nor Vexeri patterns. They were creating something entirely new. I believe, Zix-427 said slowly, their body glowing with intense purple light. We may have discovered something far more important than a solution to our reproductive challenges. These results suggest a fundamental connection between our species that transcends our apparent differences. Sarah nodded, her mind racing with the implications, as if our different approaches to reproduction are actually complementary paths to the same biological goals. But that would mean that the universe may have more underlying unity than either of our species suspected, Zix-427 finished. Perhaps our meeting was not as random as we believed. As they began the careful process of documenting their unprecedented results, Sarah couldn't help but feel that they were standing at the threshold of a discovery that would change both their species forever. The question was, were they ready for what came next? Paradigm shift. News of their breakthrough spread through the scientific community like wildfire. Within days, the International Space Research Center was flooded with requests for data access and research collaboration. Sarah found herself in endless virtual conferences, explaining their findings to wide-eyed colleagues from every corner of Earth. But it was the reaction from the Vexari High Council that truly captured the magnitude of their discovery. For the first time in their species' recorded history, the entire council had convened an emergency session to discuss the implications of a single scientific finding. They're calling it the Unity Protocol, Zix 427 explained, their body emanating waves of subtle gold light as they reviewed the latest communication from their homeworld. The two scientists had retreated to their private research lab, seeking refuge from the constant demands for their attention. Sarah looked up from her analysis of the hybrid cell's latest generation, Unity Protocol. Yes, the concept that our species' different approaches to reproduction might represent complementary evolutionary strategies has profound implications for Vexari philosophy. Zix 427's skin rippled with complex patterns of blue and violet. We had always assumed our energy-based reproduction represented the peak of biological efficiency. The idea that it might be part of a larger pattern changes everything. Sarah finished, understanding the weight of the revelation. Their hybrid cells had continued to develop in unexpected ways, displaying characteristics that suggested an almost deliberate complementarity between human and Vexari biology. The latest tests had revealed something even more extraordinary. The hybrid cells showed signs of enhanced resilience to both radiation and disease, while maintaining the genetic flexibility that had made human evolution so successful. It was as if the strengths of both species were being combined and amplified. The Council has proposed something unprecedented, Zix 427 continued, their bioluminescence pulsing with what Sarah had learned to recognize as nervous excitement. They want to establish a permanent joint research institute, not just for reproductive studies, but for exploring all aspects of our species' biological compatibility. Sarah's heart raced at the implications. That would mean, yes, full sharing of all biological and medical knowledge between our species. They believe, and I agree, that what we've discovered here goes far beyond solving our reproductive challenges. We may have stumbled upon a fundamental truth about life itself. Before Sarah could respond, their lab's quantum computer chimed with an urgent alert. The latest analysis of the hybrid cells had completed, revealing something that made both scientists freeze in amazement. "This can't be right," Sarah whispered, staring at the results. "The hybrid cells aren't just combining our biological systems, they're optimizing them. Look at these efficiency ratings." Zix 427 moved closer, their body glowing with intense focus. "The energy transfer rates are beyond anything we've achieved in our pure form, while maintaining human-level genetic adaptability. It's as if this is what both our species have been evolving toward," Sarah finished. "Two different paths leading to the same destination." The implications were staggering. If their findings were correct, it suggested that life throughout the universe might be following patterns they were only beginning to understand. The differences between species might not be random accidents of evolution, but necessary variations working toward some greater biological harmony. "We need to expand the trials," Sarah said, already formulating new research protocols in her mind. "If this optimization effect holds true across different cell types, it could revolutionize everything from medicine to space travel." Zix 427 agreed, their skin pulsing with patterns of pure white light, a rare expression of complete certainty. "But we need to proceed carefully. The implications for both our species." A sudden commotion outside their lab interrupted them. Through the transparent walls, they could see a group of officials hurrying toward their location, representatives from both Earth's governments and the Vexari High Council. "It seems," Zix 427 observed, their light patterns shifting to a more formal configuration, "that we're about to move beyond pure research into the realm of policy." Sarah straightened her lab coat, preparing to face whatever came next. Their discovery had moved beyond the bounds of simple scientific inquiry into something that could reshape the relationship between their species forever. The question was, Were both sides ready for such a profound change? Universal understanding. 1 year after their initial breakthrough, Sarah stood before the newly constructed Universal Biology Institute, its crystalline architecture reflecting the sunset in iridescent patterns that mimicked vexillary bioluminescence. The building itself was a hybrid, just like their research, a perfect blend of human and vexillary design principles. Still finding it difficult to process, Zix 427 asked, approaching with their characteristic fluid grace. Their form had changed subtly over the past year, their outer membrane now capable of producing more complex light patterns that helped them communicate more effectively with humans. Every day, Sarah admitted, watching as teams of human and vexillary scientists entered the facility. When we started this project, we were just looking for a way to help your species maintain genetic diversity. Instead, we've rewritten our understanding of life itself. The past year had brought changes neither of them could have predicted. Their discovery of the fundamental compatibility between human and vexillary biology had led to breakthroughs in multiple fields. Medical treatments incorporating vexillary energy transfer techniques had shown promising results in human trials, while modified human DNA repair mechanisms were already being used to introduce controlled variation into vexillary reproduction. But it was the philosophical impact that had truly transformed both societies. The revelation that their different biological approaches represented complementary paths rather than competing strategies had sparked a revolution in thinking about evolution and life's purpose in the universe. The latest results from the deep space surveys are particularly interesting, Zix 427 said as they walked toward their new laboratory. 3 more species have been identified with biological systems that appear compatible with our hybrid protocols. Sarah nodded, remembering the excitement when the first extraterrestrial DNA samples had shown the same optimization effect they'd discovered in their original experiments. It's not just us, is it? Life throughout the galaxy seems to be developing along parallel paths that can strengthen each other when combined properly. They entered their lab, where the descendants of their original hybrid cells were still teaching them new lessons about the nature of life. The latest generation had developed capabilities that seemed almost prescient in their efficiency, combining the best aspects of both species' biological systems in ways they were still trying to understand. The Council has approved the expansion of the exchange program, Zix 427 announced, their skin pulsing with patterns of pride and anticipation. 10 more research centers will be established across both our worlds. They're calling it the beginning of true universal science. Sarah smiled, remembering the trepidation they'd felt during their first experiments. We've come so far from those early days of just trying to maintain a stable atmospheric environment for both species to work together. Indeed, Zix 427's form shifted to display the complex pattern that had become their personal signature. Though I suspect we've only begun to understand the true implications of what we discovered. The optimization effect we're seeing in the hybrid cells suggests a level of biological intelligence we never suspected existed. They were interrupted by a notification on their shared quantum interface. The latest analysis of deep space signals had detected something new. Patterns that suggested the presence of yet another advanced civilization. One that might have followed still another path of biological development. Ready to start over? Sarah asked, already feeling the familiar excitement of new discovery building within her. Another piece of the universal puzzle to explore. Zix 427's body pulsed with brilliant colors of agreement. Always. Though perhaps this time we begin with the advantage of knowing that our differences are not obstacles to be overcome, but opportunities to be embraced. As they prepared to analyze the new data, Sarah reflected on how far both their species had come. What had started as a simple research exchange had evolved into something far more profound, a fundamental shift in how intelligent life viewed itself and its place in the universe. The human drive to explore and understand, combined with vexillary precision and efficiency, had opened doors neither species could have approached alone. Their discovery hadn't just solved the vexillary's reproductive challenges, It had revealed a deeper truth about life itself. That diversity wasn't just beneficial, but essential to the universe's grand design. As the sun set outside their laboratory, casting rainbow refractions through the hybrid crystal glass windows, Sarah knew that they stood at the beginning of something even greater than their original breakthrough. The future held infinite possibilities for both their species, and together, they were ready to explore them all.